Good evening, Star Wars fans. Coming to you with episode 2 of Holotheatre. We actually have a guest host or a co-host tonight. Everybody say hello back to Robbie Hendon. Robbie, our resident Dark Side Senate player. And I think as the guy in the between us, I don't know. I think people recognize him. He's done some things last year. I don't remember what exactly, but I believe he's Paul Myers. How you doing tonight, Paul?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. Let's just rock this.
So, this is your
people what they want. Man.
So you know what the people want, huh?
They want controversy, and
yes,
you know, I think we need to. When we talk about this bracket, there's going to be some controversy, and I tell you this right now. I have in my notes here on my GIMP PC bracket, I have one particular match that I titled, "If I could only stream one match before I died, this would be it."
Okay. So I think we'll talk about that in our segment for the GIMP PC. But first, Paul, you got back into the game in what, 2019?
Yeah, I think 18.
Okay.
My friend Gavin Googled SWCCG on YouTube, found out about GIMP and an email, and I just jumped on GIMP.
When did you stop playing the first time? Because I know you played at the beginning of the PC era, because I remember you playing at Atlanta DPC with Matt Lush.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when you actually stopped, though, because that kind of
so I stopped. I figured this out when I looked on Wikipedia and I saw where Worlds was all the years, and I basically played. I played in 3 Worlds, but I played in middle school and high school, which for me was I graduated high school in 03. I'm 35. So I played up till then, and then when I went to college, is basically when I, basically stopped playing in tournaments completely, because I went back and looked on Wikipedia, and it looks like Worlds was in Atlanta, which is 2.5 hours from Augusta and an hour and a half from where I went to college in Athens at University of Georgia. So, and I didn't even play in that Worlds. So clearly by that point, 2003-ish, I was on to college and pretty much.
Okay. So you came back 2 years ago, and 2019 was pretty good. I mean, you played in the OCS. I believe you made it into the top of the 16. And then last year, you kind of had a better year. You only played in 2 events, but I remember you and I talked about this a little personally. But you only played in 2 events, but you kind of did good in both those events. Am I wrong?
Hey, I also played in a little-known event called the Road to Worlds. Now, this is a prestigious event. Many people have forgotten about. I did place first. No, I'm just kidding. It was not a big event, but I battled B, Triple, and Gavino, and anyway. But yeah, so I kind of kicked off with those sets, which was a lot of fun, and I'll walk through that if you want me to.
So you went through the OCS. You were, I believe, the top seed. Is this correct?
Yeah, I had the top ranking. I just kind of barely edged out B. Fred and Justin Desai at the end.
And
I played Hitco 71 out of 72 games, except for game 1, which Jay Napoli will tell you I played Diplo, and he smoked me. Very first game of the 2020 OCS season. And then on the dark side, I played IE, all 72.
So it's kind of fitting, because I know in your first game of the OCS and your first game of Worlds, you got smoked.
Yes, it's a recurring thing. I also struggle with getting beat badly in the first game.
So, Paul, is this going to be some sort of an advantage for your opponent in the GIMP PC?
Totally, yeah. If you can figure out a way to make me play even slower than I already play, you are probably going to win. So, yeah.
That's fair. Well, I mean, I will say this. Out of the 2 slowest players for GIMP, it's either between you and Angelo. I give it to Angelo because he's a world champ.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I had a lot of fun. Made the playoffs. I played Nick Reich's CCT with my Hitco, and didn't play the opposite side. Then I played against Eric Hunter, who was a great opponent. I played his Legend with my Watto. I switched from IE to Watto.
Okay.
And won by 18. And then we switched decks, and he played the Darkside Space deck, which I thought was really well contrived. And I ended up losing with my Hitco by 16. So Advance played Connor in the match, which both games basically went to time. I played again Watto against his Legend and won by 14. And we switched, and he played Hunt Down regular. I guess it was before Hunt Down V. That's right. And Diplo, actually, even though up to that point Diplo had a terrible record in all major events, namely the Texas Mini Worlds, the OCS playoff. Until that point, several people had played it and gotten destroyed. The Fred, names that escape me. But anyway, Stubley beat me by 14, and then I won by lost pile differential. That game also went to time. So that was pretty crazy. And then I moved on into the finals to play Justin Desai after he had beaten Bastion on the other side of the bracket. And then Justin played really well. First game I played my Hitco versus his ISB Troopers. This was pre-Moff Gideon Narada. And I was kind of waiting for him to deploy Stormtrooper Garrison in front of either of my locations. I was at the, I forget the Coruscant as the 2-1 site, but the Republica. I was there.
The 500 Republica.
Yeah, and he went to the walkway and to space, and he basically beat me by 10. And we switched odds, IE versus his Hitco farm. Starting, I must be allowed to speak. And he obliterated me on a turn 2 battle where he had Jedi Luke, General Leia, and a Skywalker's. Yeah. And I think Nestler, and I took like 10 overflow, which for IE is really difficult to recover from. So anyway, I love the OCS. Huge fan of the OCS, of course, primarily an online, well, exclusively an online player, you could say. So had a great time playing, and thanks to Goglin and everyone that made it happen. And also, obviously, congrats to Justin Desai on winning it.
Yeah, and like we said, you were the #1 seed, so you had the #1 pick. A lot of people wanted you to pick B. Fred because you guys had a little bit of a history there. I know you talked about this with your show that you came on, and you had Scott was the host while I was traveling down to San Diego. But can you go over like why you didn't pick B. Fred and what the history between the two of you is?
Oh man, he's got a better memory than me because he remembered some things like when I stalled him out at work. He not deny.
That was
who knows 2001.
It was at Freedom Con. It was his report and Hayes Hunter's report both had you in there. I read them recently on Skilton's archive of it. I was just going back and reading old tournament reports from everybody, and they both put it in there. And we look back at it now, and I think people thought that you were stalling then, but you can see now that you're just a methodical player, somebody like what Kevin Shannon is. Nobody would really accuse Kevin Shannon of intentionally stalling. He just is a slower player. And I think we can look back and see that now. And I don't think, something that happened 20 years ago almost now, really applies anymore.
I don't know. I mean, people tweet all the time 20 years ago, and they're getting, but never mind. Let's not,
Twitter was not around 20 years ago.
But yeah, anyway, B. Fred and I are good. We chatted after that. It was okay. Funny. But yeah, I like a little trash here and there, like call him out on the game hall for not joining my games. I'll even, call him out for not joining my OCS games when he doesn't know that it's actually my game. So,
so he sees you in the hall and everything, and he's just like, "No, I'm not going to join because Paul's in there." Okay, that's fair.
He's like, "I don't have 2 hours to kill."
right.
That's fair.
But the funny thing is, he was like number 2. I think he had, I have to check the record, but oh no, because he didn't play the last month. But he had the best record overall, maybe behind Desai and me. And then he had the second best record, which is even more important, the top 16 qualifiers. So it's not like he was legitimately dodging.
No.
He took off that last month because I think you jumped out of the gates that last month and did really well. And he was like, because I was talking to him about it because he really wanted to finish first, and then he saw what you did, and he was like, man, I just don't want to grind through 12 games to have to go 11-1, 12-0, whatever he had to do to surpass you at that point. And he just was like, I'll take whatever comes with that, And it makes sense. It's, if you know what you have to do, like if you had gone a little bit less, he might have played and tried to get past you, but knowing that you have to grind through 12 games and what was arguably one of the lower end betas that we've had just didn't appeal to him.
Yeah, and I know after Texas Mini Worlds, he told me in particular, he was just beat. He didn't like the meta. He hated ISB. He hated No Idea. So I can understand him taking essentially the month off and everything. I mean, if you lose to me, you got to take a month off.
And you wonder why we didn't.
Well, hey, I'm going to say this. Robbie,
come later.
Yeah, that's another point. But Robbie, did you win a trophy last year at all?
Did I play in any games last year?
Yes.
I only played, I think, 8 games last year. I barely played a tournament.
That's true. So
yeah,
this is why you're on my list.
I would also like to point out of the 8 games I played last year in tournaments, I was on stream for 6 of them.
Well, that's because people want to see you embarrass yourself.
7. I can't remember if I was on for 506 or 4.
Well, yeah, you were on the stream, but because you were playing interesting decks. Like I know I had you and Chris Kelly on the stream, so
yeah.
But that was more on the decks that you were playing than you. Sorry about that. Okay.
Your video's gone.
Yeah, Discord does not like me. I am sorry about that, everybody.
Did it pick against you in the Bat Mouse Skin PC too?
Apparently. So, yeah, you came in second at the OCS, Paul, and then Worlds. You had a pretty good Worlds. Do you want to go?
Before we jump to that, I do want to point out Paul did message me about joining up for Texas Mini Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I had to reply that it was a full weekend kind of event. It wasn't kind of like that play as you kind of go. And he had to back out. But before he backed out, I will say that he was one of my potential #1 seeds going in. So if he had played, he would have been ranked really high. By that point, I think he wasn't surprising anybody anymore. And we were all kind of going, all right, Paul has been on a tear this year. We need to, give him props for doing so.
That's fair. So for Worlds, you actually sent me this as an email. You sent me all your the video replays or your replays from each of your games. So I'm actually going to bring up that email right now, and so we can actually let the viewers at home see that.
Okay, sweet. Let's show
them. So. Yeah, you play. So, looking at your day one again, as we mentioned earlier, you lost the first game to Grady's Hitco, and after that, you went on a nice little run. You ended up going 5-1.
Yeah.
So
I finished up. Let me see if I can that up real quick. I finished up. I played against Adam CFP's ISB, Silverglenn's map, Dingus's Legend, the deck that a bunch of people were playing that had the rocks.
Okay.
It was the one that had aim high, and then consequential losses or whatever the light side equivalent of that is, superficial damage or something. And it obviously, the rocks bounced off the ATSTs. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
It's like in the movies, that's kind of played out. except there were no logs, you know, from the ATSTs.
Yeah.
The Dingus was not too thrilled with that matchup, and I can't blame him. Played against Kieran Ketwall's HDV with my Diplo, and then I played again, and then I played against. I got a little lucky. There was a particular lightsaber swing against Kieran. This is day 1, game 5, where I actually didn't have Pujix, and he played Sniper or Dark Striker. You're beaten. And it came down to this draw where he needed to hit Luke, Rebel Scout, and he drew a 2. It was Mithril Radu. I'm probably mispronouncing. He couldn't redraw it because Imperial Enforcement was suspended because I occupied more locations than him. He couldn't redraw. He drew Force Field, missed Luke. And instead of me taking 12 to 15 overflow, which would have been unrecoverable, I came back and won that.
Wow.
And then I finished the day against Lord Legal's Hitco. I kind of got lucky there. Like, I was potentially Bastion because he was in my pod, and I just ended up dropping down and playing someone that was 3-2. I could have even played someone that was 4-1 or 5-0, but I played someone 3-2. So that's kind of how day 1 ended.
That's the joy of trying to schedule games at the last round because of side differentials and things like that. It can be a giant nightmare to try to, and plus who's played who already, what sides and everything. It gets so bad, and you're starting to look, and sometimes that X1 has to get paired all the way down to the like 500 guy just because that's the first matchup that he can play. So
yeah. Well, mad respect for tournament directors everywhere, Robbie, you included. I don't know how y'all do it. I've never done it, so it's mad respect.
It's not as bad until you try to play and do it at the same time, and then it can be really bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
played. Are you gonna go to day 2?
Yeah, let's go into day 2.
So I chose to stick with the decks I was playing, Diplo and IE. They were really out of favor as they've always been, especially Diplo, like terrible track record in major events, like I mentioned already. And then I have a unique Diplo that a lot of people don't really understand. And I showcase it back in the OCS playoffs. I only played it against Connor Britton one time. And in that particular game against Connor, which was the semifinal, I was playing against Huntdown, and I was against Huntdown. They force choke you, and you're so crunched for time because Visage is shredding your face off that you just don't have time to deploy the Falcon and deliver the plans because it's too expensive. So ever since that game, people started referring to the Diplo as the non-flip Diplo, which is hilarious because I actually intend to flip every game, especially on turn 1, preferably. So I decided to stick with Diplo. We can talk more about Diplo later when we get to meta discussion. But I felt like both decks were good, but I felt like the IE had some challenges. But I played Shadow Bee's Legend, and I think that was Fernando Castanem.
Yes.
And I did really well against him, but I think it was because he being new to the game, he made this comment early on in the game, he hadn't played against IE a lot. So he came super go to the system, and Dan, you casted this game, so if I remember, but came to the system, Leia's Rebel Transport, Anakin, had me, General Leia, Poe, and Rey, I think it was. And I ended up getting Barrick and another Viger Scout Trooper and just surviving in space with Justice.
Yeah.
So winning that game. Second game, day 2, game 2, I played my Diplo versus Justin Desai's Huntdown V. That game really, as that matchup often comes down to, it came down to a critical battle. It was like turn 3. And he thought that I only played 1 Hujix, but I actually played 2 Hujix out of nowhere combos. And so he came down to the can with, the full house. It was only like 1 or 2 characters, but he played 2 Force for You Are Beaten, lost 2 for Sniper Dark Strike, stacked a Hatred card, played Far More Frightening Than Death, and he basically ended up losing 5 cards, and then I had the Hujix. So I kind of was able to do what Diplo, which is get the separation going and kind of come back and win that.
Okay.
And then I lost Bastion's Legend. Boy, I mean, he just completely smoked me at the Tatooine system versus my IE. And I did not have the 3 changes I made moving into day 3 because I was expecting Justin and Bastion to play Legend. So I added 2 Imperial Barriers and a lateral damage. I didn't have those on day 2, and Bastion killed me. They made a difference for me on day 3.
Okay.
And the last game on day 2, I played against Sagnet's Hunt Down and B with my Diplo, a matchup I was very comfortable with, and I won that matchup. So that got me into day 3.
And day 3, you again. I like how you stuck with what you knew. You kept going with the decks that you wanted to. You made, and you said it. You made some tweaks and everything. And right off the bat, you get Bastion. You get the 2-time world champ. He's the defending champ.
3-time.
Well, I meant back-to-back. So he's a back-to-back world champ. He is a 3-time world champ. And Bastion, again, was preparing for Hitco, and he prepared for a lot of Hitco and a lot of Legend. And he even said this. He was like, if I face Legend, I'm good. If I face Hitco, I'm good. And I face Diplo.
Yeah.
So
it was a fair match for Bastion. I respect everyone, but I don't ever feel like I need to be intimidated by anyone. And I've played against Bastion, had 4-0 record against him in the OCS playoffs, so I feel comfortable playing against him. It's not disrespectful, it's just, felt comfortable going into it. But when he flipped over the starting, the Bespin CRV start with the planetary rings, I'm already a slow player, right? And when you start throwing out the cloud sectors and the Savannah gas miners and Power of the Hut on Mon, I'm like, right, this is not what I needed. But in short, I took kind of an early gamble. I didn't know fully what his deck entailed, but I went Leia Chu, the Canteen, no evasive interrupts on turn 1, along with an Owen and Baru moving over. And that had a stake there, but if he had had 1 EPP Maul, he could have wiped all 3 out with me not being able to any battle damage. So I kind of lucked out there, and then I mean, what can I say? I mean, he's so talented. He shot down. I loaded my Tantive with Ramus and Bale and everyone you could want on the Tantive, and he played Set for Stun on Bale and shot and I had Rebel Barrier. It didn't matter. He shot in the move phase with Scythe 1 and Admiral Piet, and I lost Tantive, and somehow I was able to finagle Captain Cassian protecting my Falcon like 1 extra turn. So I won 18, and then we switched sides, and I played IE. But my IE, although it was much improved to be able to handle Legend, it proved weaker later on in the next round against Hitco. As we all know, you can't beat everything. So
true.
I was able to my game against Bastion's Legend. I was able to barrier. Is either the Profundity or Falcon. It was the Falcon on turn 2, and then I barriered General Leia on turn 3, so he couldn't make me react and shoot me, and then make me lose Guesties in 1 battle, and then in the end I was able to use lateral damage the turn he conceded basically on his 1 ship, and so 2 systems and 1 out. So
nice. And then you get into the top 4. You're facing Kieran again, and
start off against with my Diplo HDV, and I don't think he wanted to play that matchup, but I ended up winning. I ended up basically end of that game. My time was going down, and so I was not playing fast enough, clearly, and I basically just drew on the very last turn because I was anticipating him paying 6 to drain me for 4, and I drew up to a 4-card hand, then a 5-card hand. I was looking for It's a Hit. Drew up to a 6-card hand and recycled my spin combo. And I ended up winning that game by 22, I think. And then we ended up flipping sides. So I didn't grant him a revert at the end of that game, which I talked to him about later and apologized for. That was something that a lot of people had comments about.
Yeah, that stirred some controversy that day.
A little bit.
Little bit of a fun game. So.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to remember the other matchup. Yeah, we switched. We switched and played my IE versus Hitko, and I think it was literally on his first turn he deployed Jedi Luke with lightsaber, General Leia. And pretty much it didn't bother me. The suspension of battle deployment didn't really bother me because if you look at my deck list, I play like 10 total combat vehicles. I've got Blizzard 2, 2 Blizzard 4s, Tempest Scout, Blizzard Scout 1, Tempest Scout 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. It's a lot of combat vehicles. I typically, with that, Tarkin's Bounty and Force Push, I can find what I need. But
yeah,
I ultimately wasn't able to attack him and clear either of those characters, and he just, he played really, really well. I mean, he deserved to beat me. He beat me by 22, and so he advanced, or 20. No, he beat me by 23 or whatever in advance. So that was a bummer.
And I mean, unfortunately, this stuff does happen. But I mean, you played well. You made the top 4. Nobody can argue against the fact that you had a good year last year. So,
yeah.
I mean, there were a few people who had doubts throughout the year, and they subsequently ate their words. I know I've gone on record in saying that you would have been one of my picks for Worlds had it not been came down to a coin flip for me. But
yeah.
Maybe this year you'll redeem yourself in my eyes.
Yeah.
He made top 2 and top 4 of the biggest online events. Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know what's redeeming you really need to do at that point. I mean,
win.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only one winner at each event, so
I know.
It's not easy, and like that top 8 was really stacked.
I mean, Chris Kelly was on the top 8. Come on, is that really stacked for you?
Yes. Chris Kelly is actually really good at this game. Like, I don't know why he gets crap for it, but
because it's Chris.
Really good at this game.
Oh, I know, but it's always fun. It's always fun for me to make fun of Chris.
I mean, Chris is also, he missed out on another top 8 because of almost having to play Savick for top 8 at Worlds. Like, he deserved a top 8 at some point for that disaster of a World.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give him that.
But,
and
there's that top 8 had what, Bastion and Desai. I mean, that's 5 world championships.
Jared, who had a really good year last year as well.
Right.
Joe, who won. Francisco, who just blew everybody's mind day 1 and 2. And Kieran, who came in second. So, yeah, I mean, the top 8 was a good top 8. It was solid. Don't get me wrong.
I would also like to say that my little pod of Worlds had Francisco, Chris Kelly, and then Baroni and Shaw, who finished, I think Shaw was the bubble at 9, and then Baroni was 11. So we had 4 of the top 11 out of my pod. I was like, that's ridiculous.
Well, whoever put the pods together knew what they were doing by including you as easy bait.
Hey, I beat Goglin and kept him off of day 2.
How hard is it to beat Goglin?
I don't want to spoil anything, but
no, they're already live, so
it was already yesterday. Yeah, he was way up there. So
that's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I said earlier today too that I would have put Paul as the #1 seed for Texas Mini Worlds. Like,
true.
There wasn't much surprising as by Worlds time anymore.
Yeah.
To go, what is the OCS? 8 months with that record
7
against players.
Or no, it's 6 months. 6 months. Sorry.
Well, I thought it was.
No, you're right. You're right. 7. It's 7. They changed it this year.
To 6, right?
Yeah, that's why I got 6 in my head.
So yeah, I mean, to go that 7 months with that kind of a record is not an accident.
True.
Like, it just doesn't. Oh, look, somebody blinks and they're that way. No, it takes actual, skill and playing well to get there.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
So, but
one of the reasons why I love PCS, because it takes stamina. It's a long haul.
mm-hmm.
And over a long time frame for sure.
Right.
So,
but yeah, I hope I can play more stuff this year, Dan. I know you were asking me about that before we got on, but I missed the sign up for the GIMP PC last year.
yeah,
I squeezed in the 64th sign up guy.
mm-hmm.
And I hope to play. I was looking at I hope I can play basically everything online this year. Whereas last year, Robbie, I missed the TMW. I missed I think the NPC was online last year.
Yes.
Too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I missed that. So,
and you only missed the TMW, I think, just because you didn't know the format when you signed up, and then you tried to jump back in. By that point, I had filled it up with the 64.
Yeah.
And then I had some drops, but then I didn't know how to get a hold of you. And you would have had to play in like one of the stupid early brackets, which probably would have been okay since you're East Coast, but it ended up being this weird little situation. But hopefully it works out this year.
Yeah, I hope I can play all those events this year and own them and maybe make a run at Player of the Year. This Player of the Year this year was so close. You had Joe Olson, I think, was at 33 points. You had Ashton at 2. I was at 31. Hayes was right behind me. There was
Desai was up there too. And
right behind. I mean, this may have been I'm a newbie to Player of the Year stack rankings, but this has to have been one of the.
I don't think we normally go that deep. It's normally like there's been a couple years where it's like 1, 2, and 3 have been relatively close, but this was like 7 deep before. Break.
I think it was because a lot of the people who, like you were saying about Joe played well in the OCS. He made the OCS. He made the top 8, I believe, in the Texas Mini Worlds. He didn't have a good. I mean, he obviously won Worlds, but he didn't really have a good NPC or Indoor Grand Prix. And I mean, you had Hayes, who won both the NPC and the Indoor Grand Prix. So yeah, he was up there. Paul, who had a great OCS and Worlds. So I can see why it was so close this year.
Right. And Desai, who had a good OCS and Mini Worlds.
Yeah.
Shaw had a good Mini Worlds, and I think if he had made top 8, he might have almost pulled off the Worlds win, assuming assuming Joe didn't still win. Like everybody was right there in that top 8. I mean, the top 8, and Shaw was right there to make top 8. Desai and Paul, if Desai, Paul, or Bastion won Worlds, they probably would have been Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
That's how close it was.
Yeah. So to me, that's the question of: is there anything we can do to get? Well, obviously, Joe Olson, the Honorable Reverend Josiah Olson, did a wonderful job creating the notifications for people to be able to register for events. So hopefully that'll help get more people in. And then, maybe there's some type of incentive that could be done for the Player of the Year. I know a lot of people talked about that on Slack. It'd be really cool. Like, we need, for the GIMP PC, we need Eric and Hayes Hunter. We need Justin Desai. We need Bastion Winklehouse. We need these excellent, talented top players playing the GIMP PC and some of the other OCS. So it would be cool if there was a little monetary incentive. I don't know if it's 250 or 1,000, something in there.
I mean,
where it goes to the Player of the Year, and then people are playing more events because I guarantee I bet it improve.
I honestly think if they just gave out a cool trophy.
They do.
They do?
They do.
I haven't seen it.
They do give out.
Don't take pictures of it, so that's why I didn't know it existed.
So they do give out a trophy. They also get some other cool swag that hopefully we'll see those at Worlds this year. The other thing is, I mean, I like where you're thinking, but I know for the GEMP PC in particular, I don't know, like, does that actually usually come into play with Player of the Year stuff? I think the GEMP PC is for first of all, it's a free tournament, so I mean, I'm not saying that
Sure.
it's a bad tournament, but I'm saying like it's not 100% PC. Like it's not like the Indoor Grand Prix where it's a major event.
I mean, I didn't go into it thinking Texas Mini Worlds was going to be a major. I just wanted to run an
True.
event and play it. And I think 2020 has shown us more than ever that online play should count.
Yeah,
Because sometimes in years of COVID, it's the only thing that counts.
true.
So
Right.
I don't have any problem, bumping up certain events. But we've also shown too that with Player of the Year, we've kind of skewed it heavily towards events like Worlds and things like that, which makes sense. But it also means that you don't have to play every event and be consistently in the
True.
top. You can play a couple and win them, and you're right there. I mean, Hayes
Yeah.
played he played
Right.
essentially 2 events. He didn't play Mini Worlds, he didn't really do the OCS, and he played 1 game at Worlds, and he was in the top 5. You know, and Desai played OCS, Mini Worlds, NPC, Worlds. He played damn near everything except indoor.
Yeah.
Joe, I think, played everything,
Yes.
and we kind of reward taking a tournament off or here or there, which makes sense. I really do think it's hard to play every major every time it comes up if we're going to run majors every 2-3 months, especially when we get live events back plus online events. Like it will become such a grind that having the ability to take an event off here or there is still beneficial, and it shouldn't knock you out of the Player of the Year race.
True.
So like I don't have any problem with this being worth some points for the Player of the Year, but we need to make sure and keep it in mind that you can still rest an event here and there and still do it, because it's not all like if we go to a live event and that we start making it to where you have to hit every event, like somebody like Paul will probably never get there unless he starts traveling again, or the European players won't really get on there because it's harder for them to come over here and play in our majors.
True.
Things like that. So it's always something to kind of be leery of when you're trying to make it something like a grind. Like that's what I like about the OCS. It's that grind for those players that want to grind, but then we have the Player of the Year that kind of gives it to, it kind of allows you to not have to grind a little bit.
True. And I mean, the Europeans do have a lot of their own tournaments, and those do go for Player of the Year, so that's good. But yeah, I agree. There should be some incentive for all the stuff, and now that we have more online play, I agree that you should take into consideration online play. But sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Some of the little events, I was looking at my points, like me finishing second in the OCS, that was 12 points. Me finishing third at Worlds was 10 points, but me winning the Road to Worlds was 8 points.
True.
Right.
Playing in these smaller events and getting first is like Chris Gogolin won the GIMP PC last year. It's 8, and that is huge when you're talking about someone winning the year by 1 or 2 points with 33 points total.
Right.
So anyway, I'm
how many points was Worlds? How many points did Joe get for winning Worlds? It was like 20 something, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I mean, Worlds had it also depends on the number of players who come into the event too.
And Worlds had 100 people. So I mean, it was huge event, and it should be worth a lot. But you get a lot of points for winning, rather than also just being always consistent in the top 8.
Yeah. But I think this is a good segue to talk into the GEM PC at this point. As we saw last night, Batmouse and I announced the bracket, and the bracket is currently live. So let's actually bring that up.
It's quite large.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the bracket. I got tons of notes.
So our number one overall seed is Joe Olsen. Kind of fitting. Again, he won Worlds. So, Player of the Year. Perennial top 8 has won the NPC in the past. I mean, what else can you say about the guy at this point? But he is the #1 overall seed.
He doesn't have a lot of hair.
Well, anybody for his age who really does.
Hey, I think I'm actually older than Joe.
Wow.
Joe, I got to tell you this. I'll just tell you, I have a lot of respect for Joe. He and I swapped emails with all of our Worlds replays all 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched of his replays, and he watched every one of my replays. And he just really deserved it. Like I told him, some of the decisions he made on burning Accelerate to pull No Escape, using No Escape to get your beatens back, and just some of the decision making, I just thought was really high level, really talented. And I didn't say this earlier, but just publicly, congrats to Joe. Like, really amazing run. And now that I've seen all his replays, I have a greater depth of appreciation for like.
I really felt like he came into that event probably the best prepared player almost. He knew the matchups kind of inside and out, and he spent the time really doing it. And that pays off.
Yeah.
I mean,
agreed.
He knew his decks. He knew what his opponents would do to beat his decks. He could figure out plays and key cards, and you don't always get a lot of time in the game to try to find things or to miss a pool. Like if you're doing, for example, something like QMC where you can pull from your force pile and you pull a card and you're like, oh, that was the wrong card. You don't always get enough time to make that mistake up. And Joe knew what key cards he needed to have at what given times, and he made sure he found them. And that's definitely a huge skill to have.
Yeah.
And it comes from prep and hard work. And honestly, it's nice to see that rewarded in our game rather than just, taking some time off and coming back and being like having Chu just show up all of a sudden and just crush everybody because he's Johnny Chu and he's the greatest player.
Well, I mean, Johnny put in the work years and years and years throughout the game. So, I mean, that's not like the same.
Like, it's hard to jump into a meta and still crush everybody. And
True.
Seeing hard work pay off versus just somebody getting luck or, something like that is nice. So.
Oh, I agree. Like, Joe winning it was amazing, and just seeing his reaction after he won on camera, him in that Santa hat, is going to be one of the better images from last year.
Agreed.
So
yeah, there was no doubt he should have been #1 out of this.
But the #2 seed in his bracket I like because it's Tom Struthers, who he's a Gemp warrior. He's strictly online like Paul, and he's one of the better. He's a really solid player. So him getting a 2 seed, I like. But moving on, our next #1 seed is the winner of the Texas Mini Worlds, Matthew Harrison Trainer. He's won the NPC. He's won numerous other events. So, and you were saying, Paul?
I'm gonna take Joker King though over both Archmage BB and Tom. But then I do have him losing to Stubbly, and I've got Stubbly over Jag Tech. So just early predictions.
Okay.
Yeah, that Joker King over Archmage, man. Aaron Kingery is somebody I hate always picking against because Aaron pulls stuff out of nowhere, and you're like, what the hell is he doing? And he's got a plan the whole time, and he makes it happen, and you're like, huh? Yeah, he runs laps around you in his net creativity. He's the one person I would not want to ever have to pick against to do something. I mean, he can be inconsistent because he'll play that off the wall stuff, and sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that's not something like I feel bad for Joker King having to prepare for it.
Yeah, that's probably. I'm going to say this. Like, I'm probably going to say that's probably one of the hardest people to prepare for in this tournament. Outside of Scott, it's Kingery.
I would rather prepare for Scott than Kingery because with Scott, I'm just like, all right, just play what I know. It doesn't matter because I can't predict what Scott's gonna. So just play what I know, play what I will do well with, and just go from there.
Mine, it's an auto win, so you got that in the bag, right?
No.
So, and then in MHT's bracket, we have Greg Shaw as a #2 seed. MHT is the 4th #1 seed overall. So,
yeah, and I mean, him and Shaw can kind of flip back and forth, I think, a lot of times.
And
I think I probably would have put Shaw there, to be honest, just because Shaw had a better record at Worlds than MHT did. I know MHT won Texas Mini Worlds, but let's not think that Shaw
Well,
was...
I was going to say MHT won it over Greg Shaw.
Right, but then
So
Shaw then finished it with like a top 9 at Worlds. Like,
yeah.
that's...
Oh,
we're being semantical or whatever.
well, I mean, you have MHT, who's the 4th #1 seed, and Greg, who is the #1 seed. So you're kind of splitting hairs. So
right. I'm just saying, that's my opinion, and I was somebody that rated MHT as a 1 seed when he hadn't played in how long?
True. Oh, I'm not.
I give Matt his credit for being a good player. Yeah. I just thought Shaw had a little bit better of a year. But
okay. So out of that bracket, Paul, who do you like? Like, what matchup is the one? Like, is there a matchup in there that you like?
Out of the MHT bracket?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that's the one bracket on here I have the least amount of notes on. Like, literally, so you can see where all my notes are right in here, the next bracket. But I just put, my note was like, is Shaw playing a lot? I haven't seen him online. So,
no,
but beside him, I haven't seen anybody except I have a little note here that says Batmouse will advance farther than Dan.
I'm going to say this. I also have Batmouse progressing farther than myself. That's also because, I mean, actually, you know what? No, I stand corrected. I have Batmouse losing in round 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who Datalar was.
That's Matt Sokol.
Sokol? Oh, yeah. Sokol. Never mind. Cool.
Yeah. That's all we have to say. The match that I like in this one is the Taco Bill versus Kenobi SW, because that's Bill Kafer versus Brad Iyer, and this is Brad's first online event.
Yeah, he was literally playing GIMP for the first time the other day and forgot to click a starting interrupt, and there's some fun learning curves to go, and Bill has had an incredible year. Wayne, I think, did well at the NPC.
Mm-hmm.
Edward Chan did well at Texas Mini Worlds.
Yes. Yeah.
Adam Trunzo has done well over the year as well.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say he upset MHT in the NPC this year.
Yeah, I think so.
So.
And then Sokol is Sokol. Yeah, like that bracket's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. It was, but.
I also have Brad Iyer learning how to play on GIMP in the next 2 days and finding some luck and going all the way to making a run into MHT. So I have
interesting. That's saucy. Bill's in the chat, so you want to say anything to Bill regarding that?
I've picked against Bill every time this year, so I think Bill's happy I'm picking.
Okay.
To be honest.
That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I had MHT and Shaw come out of that bracket.
Yeah, I think I have the same thing.
I don't have major strong feelings about that bracket. It's the next bracket that I have a lot of strong feelings about.
Well, let's go into that bracket. So the #1 seed is actually the reigning champ, Mr. Chris Goglin, and the #2 is some guy named Paul.
Yeah.
So let's let's dive into that bracket. So how do you feel about this, Paul?
I love being an underdog. That's all I can say.
And I'm going to say this, like, it's kind of funny because you're not only are you a #2 seed, you're the #3 2 seed. So Greg Shaw, and I want to say our next #2 seed are rated above you in Batmouse's eyes.
Right. That's all good, man.
Batmouse has a couple screws loose. Anybody who's met him knows this.
This is true. This is very true.
I don't think it's from drinking problems, but it's just Batmouse.
Yeah.
We've learned to accept the craziness that is the mouse, and we have to accept it sometimes that he ranks a guy who lost to me at Worlds as the #2 overall seed, and put somebody that had probably one of the better years out there as a 7th seed. So.
Oh, who would that be?
two players we were just talking about.
Oh, great.
I beat Gogolin at Worlds, and I
Okay.
beat Gogolin at Worlds, and he's the number 2 seed. And I thought, I mean, I don't when
Oh, okay.
when the players signed up, I honestly thought Paul would have been a 1 seed. So it did surprise me. And that's not saying Gogolin can't play Star Wars. I mean,
So I think the reason, well, I'm saying I think it's customary in a lot of tournaments to make the reigning champ as a 1 seed, and I get that. We might want to talk to the tournament committee and change that, but hey, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's an insult to Gogolin to say he's not a 1 this year. I don't think he would disagree with anybody on that, but he's a good player. I don't have a problem with him being in the top 3 seeds of any bracket. It's just weird that somebody who lost to me, of all people, would be ranked so high.
Well, I'm going to say this, like, I believe a guy named Brian Fred lost to me in Texas Mini Worlds. What would you rank him? A number 2 seed?
And this, probably a 3.
Okay.
But he didn't play Worlds.
He didn't play Worlds, and I don't know where. Right, I don't know where his head's actually at when it comes to playing, and we've got a lot of strong people playing in this.
I agree, 100%.
So, like, there's another person I felt was a little underseeded in this, being Kyle, as the 18 seed here in this bracket. I thought Kyle was a little underseeded as well. And even somebody like Crypto, I thought was a little underseeded as a kid. Like, hard to rank him. But, I'm like, all right, that's a little not where I expected him to be when doing signups, and I definitely didn't expect Matt Lutz at 23.
Matt had a good year last year. He really did. So
seeing him at 23 was kind of a shock as well. Like, I think this is probably the toughest pod I've seen so far.
I agree.
Out of all of them. And you have your work cut out for you to win this one, Paul?
I think Paul can. I'm going to say, so looking at his bracket, I like Paul coming out of this bracket.
I think Paul might be challenged with Crypto. I don't know if you've played Crypto. Have you played Crypto?
I played once this week.
I will say this about Crypto. He likes OA. He likes OA. So, no. I'm going to say this, and people might call me crazy. I have myself going to the finals of this bracket and facing Paul.
All right, so we now have a new level of craziness. Dan, Batmouse, and everybody else.
Hey.
So I'll tell you how I have this bracket. Are you ready to hear how I've got this bracket shaken out?
Yeah.
This is my biggest upset prediction right here. I have been waiting all year long to be able to pick against Dan Tartaglione. This is my one chance live on the Holotheatre to pick against Dan after the many times he's discounted me, not the least of which was the OCS playoffs after the 72-game run I put together, and then he discounted me in Worlds Day 1 after I lost to Hutch, and then he didn't pick me basically for anything. So this is my chance. I'm taking Heisenberg. Put it down. Write it down right now, Dan. Heisenberg over Dan Tartaglione, and I'm going to double down and take Heisenberg over Chris Gogolin. How about that?
I did feel insulted that Dan was ranked 31 here, and me and Jerry were not ranked higher than Dan. I feel like Dan is getting a lot of extra credit for doing well at just Texas Mini Worlds.
Whoa, time out. Time out.
Nothing else throughout his entire career of Star Wars. And I feel like it's been overrated time and time again.
Can you read those? Yeah.
Those are you know what consolation means, Dan?
I lost in the first round, yeah.
Yeah. And you got second place in the losers tournament.
Well, I played Pat Johnson. I played Pat Johnson. So I'm going to say this, though. The people I beat in both of these tournaments, I played Wayne in one. I beat down Wayne. I played Casey. So, beat Casey. And I beat Brian Fred last year.
Good win.
Yeah.
Very good win.
I beat the number 2 seed in your pod.
I
Less
beat
than a month ago. Less
Well,
than a month ago.
That's Chris Gogolin.
Brian Fred's not even on the board.
Yeah, I know. Brian Fred is. I'm going to say this. Brian Fred, if he was on here, would probably be the number 1 2 seed, if not a 1 seed.
I still think he would have been a 3 seed, but that's just me.
Well, that's you.
And I think Brian Fred would probably agree.
And it's still something
What's the difference in
doesn't modify. Oh, you know what? I didn't. I'm going to say this about the constellation really quick. I played against literally a buddy of mine, Pat Johnson. I didn't care if he won or I won. I got to the top. I got to the constellation. The finals. I was happy. I made the top 16 out of. The only person I lost to was Ed Chan. Ed Chan, who I think is underrated in this tournament. And I will say this: I beat Ryan Saracen, who's a good player. Batmouse, who's higher than me, apparently.
Also, Edward Chien is rated lower than you.
No, he's not. He's a 9. Yeah, he's a 9 seed.
He's 36. You're 31. He's rated lower than you.
Well, I got a list of players who have. I got a list of players.
Batmouse. Everybody else.
I'm on that list.
Yeah, you're on the list now, Paul.
The rest of the bracket here. You got Jay Napoli. He just beat me this week with Yavin 4 Ops. His Agents of the Black Sun was 6-0.
It's so good. Like,
gosh, he's got to get some more credit. I mean,
oh yeah, easily. And you know what? He's one of the underrated. Like, he's an underrated player and he's an underrated volunteer. The guy does so much for the game.
I rate him as a possible 1, more than likely a 2 at Texas Mini Worlds, and then he just flushed the toilet on that. So I don't, I didn't underrate him, but then it comes back for Worlds and he tears it up. So maybe it's just his one event. I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to say, but anybody who underrates him as a player is just digging their own hole in that game. Like,
yeah.
Honestly, I think at this point, underrating anybody is just insane with the amount of games you can play on him. The skill level of today's player is a lot higher than it used to be.
Apparently, unless your name's Dan Tartaglione.
Yes.
Okay, Robbie.
I have are we ready to move to the last bracket?
Well, I thought you did with Jared being on there.
Yeah,
Jared was number 1.
I've got to talk about the brewing matchup between Silver Glenn and Dylan. I know both these guys real well. Marco Polo with them all the time. Both extremely good. They faced off against each other. This is little known facts in the Jawa Cup last year. And then they got paired against each other in Worlds Day 2. I think Dylan won that game. So this is if I could stream one match before I died, I would take, assuming they both win round 1, I would take the round 2 Silver Glen Dylan match and stream that bad boy, because that one,
I agree,
a match to watch.
Silver Glen's a great player, and I find it funny that he's playing a guy named TARDIS in the first round. And Dylan should easily destroy Robbie. It shouldn't even be a contest.
I mean, it is a contest because we're playing in a contest, but
it shouldn't be a contest. It should literally be Dylan comes up to you and goes, "Hey, Robbie, what are you playing?" "Oh, I don't care. I'm going to beat you down."
That's fair. Like, I have no...
You were talking to Jerry for Dex.
Yes. Who do you think gave me my 3-0 light side? Jerry.
That's because Jerry's on a good team. Like, look at his team.
I'm just saying, you got to reach out to people where you can to get.
Oh, believe me, I'm doing the same.
Like, I think out of this one, I think I picked JJD, Jared, to pull this off. I think he's very he gets underrated a lot and he gets higher ranks, but then people don't always take him as seriously as I think they might need to. And I have Ryan Jellison, who is probably one of my favorite people in our community.
Yeah.
I have him going to the finals with JJD. Ryan
Really?
is somebody who I've always thought is a great player and an even better person. So
yeah, he's very creative. I'll give him that. I will say this though, I don't see him a lot on Gemp.
Yeah,
so.
I mean that's the one downside. The one fear I had picking him, as far as I did, was you don't see him on Gemp, and he does have, he can be a little inconsistent, like I was saying with Kingery, where he kind of plays his own decks and you see what happens. But he's somebody you can't really game plan for. And I've also watched him play Chu a couple of times, to where Chu has called him one of the toughest players he's played.
Yeah,
so,
and I will say this, like, when Chris Kelly says to everybody that Jared is a better player than him, you got to take that. He's got to take that into consideration.
Right. I mean, I think Jared's had some bad luck here and there, or maybe he's made the one wrong decision that's cost him some games, whereas Chris Kelly doesn't probably fall into that trap. Plus, Chris Kelly gets to play me, and that's easy win. So, but I think Jared has done well enough so that you shouldn't count him out. And,
agreed.
Like that bracket, I think could be Jared, either of the Jareds. Adam could get there, Ryan could get there, or Justin could get there, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think
really tough.
I know I picked an all Jared final for this bracket with Jay Knapp coming out. Yeah. So, but
I didn't listen to Ryan, so it's not like I was trying to insult him or anything. I like picking Ryan. I can't pick him.
I can't pick against Ryan normally, but like I think I have a Ryan versus Jay Knapp in the finals.
Yeah.
Or
right. They play each other in the semifinals of that bracket. So if they get there,
I don't know how Jay Naplet does with. I swapped some messages with him about how his Agents of the Black Sun did against Hitco. He beat some, obviously, to day 3, he beat some amazing players, and he beat a lot of Hitcos.
Yeah.
So I don't understand.
1 second.
And I'm facing J-Nap. I'm thinking a lot real hard Hitco. And neutralizing undercover spies and getting a big drain with Jedi Luke, and taking my shot with Hitch the Black Sun. But what do I know? I could be wrong, but
that's the beauty of
it's just what I'm thinking.
We can all sit here and speculate all day, and then the games happen, and you don't know how they're going to go all the time. And like Bastion in the finals, as you were saying earlier, he was like, I'm good against Hitco, I'm good against Legend, and then he has to go against Diplo. And if he gets matched up against somebody else, Bastion may have been in the final. Who knows? Like, that's the beauty of the way the game works. And like you were saying, even with Justin Desai, you didn't think you had a second Hoojix, and then you did. And you make decisions the best you can, and sometimes they work, they don't. And it's not a perfect game where you have all the information, and that's what allows others to kind of rise to the top at times.
Right, and that's why I oftentimes, when I'm Marco Poloing with Gavin, we often throw out that good old NFL slogan of any given Sunday, right? Because if you're watching Chris Berman and Booger McFarland doing NFL primetime, they say it all the time. Any given Sunday, the Jets can beat, the Cleveland Browns, or the Patriots lose, or whatever, So
Dan could win and make top 16 of Texas Mini Worlds any given Sunday. So
you guys are not going to stop going at it.
No, never. But
we haven't gotten to the meta yet.
Well, actually, I think it's time we shift away from the game PC and everything. Really quickly, I want to touch upon the deck building challenge that we presented last week. Starting this month, and actually starting now, you're going to have monthly deck building challenge. I'm presenting I'm presenting monthly deck building challenge. So the January deck building challenge again is see who can hit the most number of characters with blasters in a Shadow Collective deck. You have until the end of January. So expect better prizes now for these deck building challenges. Again, it has to be in a league game. It has to be, you have to win. Heck, if it's in a game with for the GEM-PC, put that up there. I want to see people play Shadow Collective in the GEM-PC and hit people. So,
wait, hit people. You said specifically with blasters, though, right?
Yeah, they have to be blasters.
Because I think it was Brian Twig that I played at Worlds had the really cool IG-88 with thermal detonator that came down to my throne room. I was going to draw 3 draws with Maul being able to modify them and
no.
And yeah, it would have been bad, and I got lucky there. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's our. So we're doing monthly deck building challenges again. Look for those at the first of the month. I'll be updating them on the forums and everything as we get to them. But now I think it's time for my favorite part of the show. Paul, how confident are you feeling in a lore challenge?
0%.
Good. So your lore challenge. Are you ready?
Yeah, hit me with it.
Directed a counter attack against the Ewoks on Endor. Formerly crewed an AT-AT assigned to the Devastator. Originally from Kessel.
Crap, you would give me some type of pilot that pilots walkers, because you know I love IE, and I'm going to miss this. This is terrible. Golly.
I was thinking the same thing when I saw what the card was. Dan's just being a dick to Paul here.
Yes, I am. This is
beautiful.
Yeah. Hey, you picked me again. You picked me to lose.
Yeah, I deserve this.
So did everybody else.
Well contrived. Well contrived. I don't know. I'm gonna throw out there. I know this is not right, but it's the only thing I can think of, which is Major Marquand. Final answer?
Final answer is correct, sir.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was lucky. He never makes the cut in my IE, so
yeah.
Right. That's what I saw it, and I was like, he never makes the IE cut, but he's always there that you're looking at him.
So
He
Paul.
never makes the cut.
So congratulations, Paul. You're the first winner for the year.
Congrats, Paul.
That was pure luck.
We'll get you out a prize. I'll get you a special prize just for that. But yeah, now you got to put him in your deck. Well, actually, you know what? I mean, you technically can put him in your deck because he's on an AT-AT Walker.
Yeah, he's a combo one.
Yeah.
Which is usually why he's
never
always.
makes
That's usually the one I always look at. All right, the combo walker is what I would look at playing more than the pilot, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't play him, but I do play Lieutenant Arnett because he's free and just got one.
And I knew if I would have gave you Lieutenant Arnett, you would have gotten it. So I gave you the other guy.
Yeah. Very well done.
Well, congrats on getting it. But so that's going to be it for our show tonight. Went a little bit over of our hour, but hey, it's always fun to have Paul on the show. Again, I want to thank Robbie for being my co-host, even though he picked against me. I want to thank Paul for being my guest, even though he rightfully picked against me because I gave him so much crap last year. And so just for next week, everybody, we're going to have Scott Lingrell on. I know he was supposed to come on a few weeks ago, and we supplemented him with Chris Kelly. So come on next week. We're going to have some awards to give away.
Like a bad trade.
What, Chris for Scott?
Yeah, like I'd rather have Scott than Chris.
Well, personality-wise, yes, I agree. Play-wise,
yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
I'm much more entertained by Scott's decks and play than Chris Kelly's main.
Well, I mean, I will say this, though. Chris Kelly was the guest of the year. Maybe Paul will be the guest of the year this year. Would you rather be player of the year or guest of the year?
Player of the year.
Oh, Dan, you're really putting me on the spot. Listen,
Yeah.
and until you pick me to win something, I'm going to answer that
Hey,
question.
Paul, go check out my prediction for the GEM PC.
Yeah, you might want to look at something before you.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it yet. I truly haven't.
So you know what? Just because I'm going to actually show it. I'm pulling it up and I'm going to display it.
Nope, we gotta go. Sorry, that's
no. Oh no.
while you're pulling it up, because I picked Heisenberg over Gogolin, I need to go back and give Gogolin a shout out because he's got the OCS up. There are people that have already, I think like a dozen people have already registered. So
yeah,
haven't registered 2021 OCS these
Oh,
yes. Yep, you can already register. It's $50 for the 6 months, $10 per month, so you're saving $10 if you do for the 50. Paul, check out your stream really quick.
Okay, I'm looking at it right here on my iPhone. You have me, Joe Olson, MHT, and Jay Naplet. You're picking chalk here, which, you know, I guess. So you're taking me over Gogolin, I guess, would be the upset pick there, based on seedings?
Well, no.
Okay.
Based on the seedings.
Pmyers drunk. Did you?
So, yeah, I am picking you to win it. And as I said earlier, just because I figured this would be funny.
Wait.
Wait. Is he drunk? The answer? Yes,
yeah, he's drunk because he's having himself play you.
And you know what, Paul? I might actually just concede to you.
There we go. You're taking yourself over just shy. And there it is. You're moving it over. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So.
You know what's also weird, Dan? Looking at these, only 3 people have put Joe Olson in the final 4.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that, but so again, thanks for tuning in for another exciting episode of Holotheatre. We'll be back next week with the one, the only Scotland Grail. So until next week, good night, everybody.
Yep, good night,
guys.